prior to while you guys are answering questions, and just let me know when it's my turn to answer.
Okay. Cool.
What
Can I
is
hear
that?
us right now?
Yep. So.
Have you gotten any questions yet?
We just got started.
Yeah. How
I
are we
see.
gonna how are we gonna do this? So what
You know what?
I'll just
Yeah,
cease
we're
to
looking for the
exist. Oh,
We
we
should
forgot.
do-
We need Retardo to play some music.
No, it's okay.
No.
No,
Hold
it's
up,
okay.
wait. Let me make sure that you can hear in this.
Do you want the music while we're streaming?
Ah, I see what you're doing here.
I don't care personally either way.
As long as it's not
Alright,
Windows XP
alright,
ear rape for 10 hours.
Alright, that's fine. I can do that. That's fine. Alright. Cool. Alright, is that loaded? There you go. Alright. So I guess we can start by just
Introducing ourselves like we did last time.
Yeah, alright. Let's start at the top. Jim.
Wow, that's very good. What a
Jim, let's start with you.
so mature.
Alright, so hi, I'm Troy, and we placed second at nationals this past year.
Okay, that's cool. Josh.
He's a mentor.
This is Josh from Boston, Texas.
Oof, he's dead.
Yeah, he's.
Can you repeat that?
Oof,
Can you-
he's dead.
I am not certainly dead.
He actually died.
Okay, well, some
Oh,
people,
Oh, bloody.
some people are quite far away, so our connection's not that great. I'm Kyle. I competed in CyberPatriot X as a middle school. I'm moving into high school this year in CyberPatriot 11. Matt.
I competed in Cyber Titan Cannibals, and I got number 2 in nationals, and I'm going into high school, so open division.
Okay. Who's next?
I'm Mr. Robot, and I competed in the middle school division, and I got I got first in state of Tennessee.
Cool. Mr. Mean. You can skip him for now if he's not gonna answer.
Okay.
Alright, Rainbow.
Okay, I've been competing since CyberPatriot 8 from 2015 in the middle school division. Next year will be my 4th year, and I'll be competing in the open division, and I went to semifinals all 3 years.
Okay. And next, who's next?
Okay, so I am Shusaijin. I have been competing for 4 years. I started in the high school division during CP8. This is gonna be my final year of competition. I've gone to regional/semis every year, and my school hates our club.
Alright.
Oh no.
Talon?
Alright, it's my turn?
Yeah.
Yep.
Alright, hello, my name is Talon. I've been competing in CyberPatriot for 3 years, including CyberPatriot 9 and 10, and 8. I just lost Street Fighter. Basically, I do a lot of Linux stuff and Windows stuff, mainly Linux though. I'm a Gentoo user, so if you're an Arch user, get out of here. Just kidding.
Yes, Arch is bad. Gentu's the only good distro.
Yep, he's right. I do a little bit of programming on the side. I don't really care about programming too much. Mainly C++, and sometimes Python, but not really too much. That's basically it for me.
Alright, last but not least, Toasty.
How do you do? My name is Toasty. I competed from CyberPatriot 7 to 10. Our team pretty much made it to semifinals and whatnot, you know, every single time. We're kind of just like mostly agricultural in sports high school, but I kind of changed it up a bit, so we managed to make it up there. Big things that I've done would include that I've done would include publishing a Windows manual that gives you a good grasp of like what competition is like when it comes to doing Windows stuff, and a Cisco reference guide. If there's anything else coming, I'll let y'all know, but that's pretty much it for me.
Can you send links to those in general?
Yeah, those
It's
are.
in the resources.
Yeah, those are.
I can post it.
resources, Yeah.
They're
They've
in
already
resources.
posted.
Oh, hey,
Okay,
Artie.
we
I
had
see.
2 people join, Artie and Mora Will, who didn't get to, so.
Artie!
Artie is late. Needs to be
Oats.
kicked out.
Yeah, sorry, I was doing some stuff, you know.
And we got
Were you posting anime?
No.
Yes.
I was.
Shame. Weebs.
Well, PureCon's here now. Sounds good.
And we also, yes, we have PureCon. We have a bunch of people here. Not quite everyone's here, but good enough.
Alright,
We have
so.
more than last
It sounds
time.
like there's a civil defense sign in the back.
That's what I heard.
That's
What
his
the hell
dog.
Yeah.
We
Alright.
have 11 viewers right now.
Hey, Shu, if you could move your mic a little bit, you're kind of building into it a lot. Alright.
So,
So who's got
what
the
chat are we
questions?
seeing from?
Who has the questions?
Oh, I died.
Are we going to answer the ones we did yesterday?
Yeah, sure, it's fine. If we have
Okay.
any-
What up?
Yeah.
Was
I
I
just
the only
brought in
person
the chat.
supposed to be here on Saturday, or are there other people who couldn't make it yesterday?
I wasn't here yesterday.
We can stream general if you want. That's fine. Hold on.
I'd like to say we could probably kick off the stream by having people who weren't here yesterday answer questions.
All right. That's cool.
Oh no!
Yeah,
Sorry.
we certainly have more people here today, so it should be.
Oh, we have a finalist here.
Should be good.
Zamp.
Who's the finalist again?
Zamp. AFA merge plug.
Oh. What team were you on?
0043.
Uh,
I'm
which
a-
one?
I'm a Canadian finalist, if that matters.
That means nothing.
Oof. Nationist.
That was rather harsh.
Wait, merch plug.
I
what was it? What was
reposted
it?
them in CyberPatriot Panel.
Wait, what?
Because most people identify
Okay.
teams by their unique names, not their numbers.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Everybody knows 0043 though.
I don't.
I
What
don't.
are they?
Second
Never
place
heard of
middle school.
0043.
Like, I've heard of it, but I don't know what their team name is. Like, I don't know.
Okay. All right, that's cool. We have questions, right? So, the first one is, how does CyberPatriot affect participants in the future? So, who wasn't here yesterday? I know I wasn't.
I wasn't here yesterday.
All right. Well, I guess I've only competed for 1 year, so I don't think I'm that great for answering this question. But Toasty has been competing for a while, and he finished competing. So, how has it affected you?
Well, first of all, I think I began like my middle school and high school days thinking I was going to become a game developer and or a artist. Now, obviously, those are not viable careers, and you know I would have a completely different mindset if I never learned about CyberPatriot. CyberPatriot opened up the idea that you know there's another career out there that that would actually appeal to me, and the more research I did and the more I looked into it, the more like I learned. Most people don't even know that's an option, that's a thing you can do. So, you know, it gives people the ability to, you know, check another career path, whether it's infosec, forensics, software development. It gives you a gateway to it.
Yeah.
I like penetration testing.
Okay, Artie. The second part of the question was, what advice do you have for deleting Ubuntu viruses? Now, I know that we can't really answer this question without breaking the rules, but does anyone have any advice?
Clam.
Yeah.
Clam AV or just deleting Ubuntu. But that's not an option.
Delete the slash drive.
Yeah, no, please
Delete
serious
root
answers.
partition.
Yeah.
Just use Clam AV. Do not delete anything, especially the root file system. Clam AV will take care of it for you. Also,
the question-
try RK Hunter.
So I guess the question would be this: why do they think they actually have the virus on Ubuntu? I mean, what are the signs? What are the indicators of compromise?
Things you don't recognize.
Yeah.
Well, if they
biggest one.
recognize it, then they can fine you. It's to me. It's like saying, "Hey, it's sunny out there, but where's the sun?"
Yeah, yeah.
I suggested this yesterday. Like a form of virus, I guess you could say. Backdoors, if you're looking for that, it's pretty easy. Learn how cron jobs work, and use any sort of like network monitoring tools. You can use a standard netstat, with a few extra parameters, and look for like suspicious programs that are listening on unusual ports, and then track that down, see what you find. Yeah, that's as far as backdoors go.
All right. What's the next question? Is there any point in going through all the auditing settings and configuring them? Do you usually get points for that? Is the amount significant? So again, we're not allowed to say what gives points specifically, but does anyone have any good answers for this?
Okay, I'm gonna say what I said yesterday. Because CyberPatriot is a virtual environment, it's not like a real environment, it's not nationals or anything. You have 6 hours. If you're really stuck and you're not getting points, remember 2 things. 1, CyberPatriot does not score everything. There's gonna be a crap load of vulnerabilities that they don't score. 2, if you're really stuck, there's no rule saying you can't nuke it. What I mean by that is check all the settings, audit, for example, audit everything. You'll probably get some points eventually.
Yeah, if you're stuck, record everything. Like, if something gives you points, make sure you have the solution down, and then once you've done that, your best bet would be to like start over. Just as long as you have another image zipped and you know exactly what you did for everything. Sometimes people get stuck. That's okay. Then people lose track of things. Always write down what you do. Keep it in mind. Most people don't do it, and then they get screwed over like that.
So wait, did I hear that
Go ahead.
nuke vulnerabilities?
I think the
Trying to
operating
win.
system.
You were
That's
cutting
what
out.
I meant.
Wait, so what we're proposing? Are we saying that we should be nuking the image, or nuking settings, or nuking just applications?
We were talking about auditing settings. I told them that you could just audit everything until you get points. There's no rule against it.
There's usually like 1 or 2 auditing points in the whole system.
Okay, just making sure that we're not saying that you should do a kamikaze and nuke the entire image.
No, that's not what I mean by that.
Nuke North Korea.
It's a legitimate strategy. It's worked before for me, but do what you gotta do.
Wait, nuking the image?
If something goes terribly wrong, or if I can't find something and I'm kind of lost, just start over from the beginning. Maybe I did something that ended up removing a vulnerability.
And another thing I want to add in, just so in case you do have to restart, please document everything you do. In case that wasn't already mentioned.
That's a good idea.
Take pictures, dude.
I was just away, so.
Yeah, at least if something like got you points and it's not the usual, the usual, just delete this user. Keep in mind what you did. Keep it recorded for later. Yada yada yada.
Okay.
We have like 2 questions in general right now. One guy, Steve, said, I once did a virus scan on a CyberPatriot VM and it found 60 viruses. Okay. After removing all of them and restarting, I didn't gain any points. Does that happen often, or did I get stiffed?
It could happen.
I doubt there's 60 viruses on an image.
I don't know how you get 60 viruses.
Yeah.
Viruses. I don't know.
I'm pretty sure your virus scanner is messing with you.
Yeah, but again, even if it was legit, not everything can be scored. So.
Are they legitimately running a virus scan, or are they just running malware bytes and getting a whole bunch of flags associated with cookies?
Yeah.
That's possible, yeah.
So what other programs would you recommend for scanning on Windows?
Someone
Windows
said
Defender?
Nexus, but apparently that's not allowed.
Yeah,
AVG?
I would. Well,
Yes.
somebody say Nessus? Yeah, that's not allowed anymore apparently.
Yeah.
Nessus
I
is
thought-
allowed. There's absolutely no reason why it should be allowed.
Yeah.
I don't
well,
know. Someone said something about. I don't understand. It should be fine. I don't know.
Yeah,
Should we
Malwarebytes
be
has
kept
worked
group?
for me. Like, it's been enough usually, so it's probably
It does a
fine.
decent job.
All right. How do you find how do you find groups in both Ubuntu and Windows? So in Windows, you can use the graphical interface. So you use the L user manager, or you can use the command line. So that's just net group. How about
Local group?
yeah, local group, yeah. And then how about Ubuntu? Is anyone else?
etc group. Just cat that file.
Right.
It's an
Group
Etsy.
command.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Someone asked. This one we can't really answer. I mean, we can try. Do you know of any common hidden vulnerabilities that usually show up in most competition images? Stuff that you do in every image, such as firewall auditing, etc., but that are less known. Can't really say much, but
Yeah, there's not a lot you can say there.
Well, let's ask this question: why do you think it's something hidden in the first place? What makes them think that there's something hidden?
I think he's talking about really advanced stuff because obviously he hasn't gotten 100%. A lot of people don't get 100%
Yeah.
on certain rounds, and they're always trying to look for those vulnerabilities that they don't get. I think that's what he's talking about. It just takes practice and experience.
Okay.
So
Try to
I
think
think-
outside the box sometimes.
So I think some of the issues is actually one of it's just we're struggling. It's like blind leading the blind. I mean, forget the fact that 4005.9 prohibits us giving answers or retaining answers. I mean, just the program as it stands, even all of us, unless you get lucky and hitting the 100% score, none of us actually has the complete answer key. All we have is essentially a list of vulnerabilities that the Air Force Association releases after every round, essentially. So my advice in this case would be, if they think they missed something, go look at those categories that they release vulnerabilities in each round, and go and look at the rulebook on seeing what categories there are.
Yeah. Right. Should we keep going with the questions we got from yesterday?
Go ahead, I'm looking for more.
All right. So it says, what language are used to write scripts, and what specific items should be targeted with
Whatever
the
is
script?
native to the operating system.
Right.
Bash, PowerShell,
You can also use C++ because you can execute system
PHP.
commands.
Yes, but C++
So
isn't really native, so.
You
But
can
you
use
can
PHP.
still execute system commands and make it one script for multiple platforms.
Yeah, that's
Keep that in
true.
mind.
Yeah, but who's gonna take the time to write a C++ script just for that?
Use
That's
PHP
very
and
true.
Shell you can read the README automatically.
Generally, Batch or PowerShell on Windows and Bash or Python on Linux is what people use.
One thing. Oh wait, what?
You can go ahead.
Okay, Josh has said this many times. I've kind of like thought about it, and I realized it is kind of true. You can script if you want, but don't think it's necessary and that you need it. It's just a convenience to get things done faster. That may be a pain. For example, setting passwords for a ton of users, or setting GPOs, or whatever it may be. Just don't try to script the entire competition. It's not worth it. Just, it's better if you do some things manually. Don't try to automate everything. Just keep it to a minimal.
All right. Danny asks, what would you say is a good score to get through rounds?
That seriously depends on what everybody gets. It really depends on what everyone gets.
100%.
Yeah.
So I would advocate this on the scores that you should be getting. Every year it varies, but expect always that the scores that you scored previously are going to be roughly you should score anywhere between 5 to 10% higher than you actually scored the previous year.
Yeah.
That's usually a good sign of improvement, yeah.
Now, something to be mindful too, okay? And this is the thing that actually, even through myself as a mentor last year, round 2, okay, for the love of mine, that was absolutely carnage on last year.
Oh,
Round 2 was miserable.
okay.
Yeah, I remember walking into round 2 that year, like only having knowledge from the CyberPatriot modules, and I got like a solid 30 points on the
Oh,
round 2 Ubuntu image,
Yeah,
and I
that is
got
true.
like 80 on round 1, so I was super confident, and round 2 just destroyed my soul, dude. It was
Yeah,
horrible.
that is true. The modules themselves aren't very useful. You will need to do some extra things to have enough to.
As far as resources go, I suggest if you're barely starting out or you want to refresh your memory, modules is the first thing. Next, for Windows, for example, you can look up CIS benchmarks. So you have them in the resources. Those are kind of boring. Or
yeah.
and then if you want, Microsoft official documentation is always there. Do your research on system hardening in a general perspective. Don't go looking for checklists. No one's gonna give you them.
Actually, if I can interrupt on that one, that's not necessarily true. You can actually ask for checklists. You just can't use CyberPatriot oriented checklists.
That's what I mean, like specific ones. No one's gonna give you specific ones.
People will
that they-
just change CyberPatriot to cybersecurity.
Online pretty easily. Just look up CyberPatriot checklist and just look it over.
That's
Sure. You can
not-
look on GitHub for CyberPatriot scripts too.
But the
Yeah,
problem
that's-
is that
if you-
most
if
of
you
the
really need
CyberPatriot checklists online are like really bad.
Hey, so what was the question again?
No,
So
good
I
one.
don't know if so I'm not sure if everyone's actually consciously aware, but actually certain states and certain universities, they actually have checklists designed for certain operating systems. So like the other day, I was just looking to see if anyone released anything new. I stumbled across, I think, one of the University of Texas. University of Texas have a Windows Server 2008 checklist that they put out.
You have
It's usable.
Let's go, Texas.
Yeah, that's
You have
cool.
your CIS benchmarks too, always available.
Yeah, those are always probably the go-to solution if you can't find it anywhere else.
You mind if I ask again? What was the question?
Well, the question was asking how many points you need to make it through rounds, but
Okay.
what
It,
kind of
it kind of branched out to like how to improve.
yeah.
Okay. Here's the big thing for me. Completely. If you're not a technical person, if you're more of a person who likes to learn the methods and apply them in the correct ways, I highly recommend that you learn the methods, how people do them, and other stuff like that. Don't dive straight into the technical details. Most of the time, that bores people and makes people, kind of frustrated or like unsure of what they're doing when it comes to security and being technical and whatnot. You really want to focus on the concepts. When you learn the concepts and you learn how people do those kinds of things, you start to get used to it and you can warm up to the more technical stuff. CIS benchmarks that will literally bore anyone in the real world that you give, because they don't know what it is, they don't understand what it's talking about, and all these other things. You want to start them off with like, how do these attacks happen? What's the main source of it? Teach them something stupid but simple, like the SethC exploit on Windows 7. You gotta give them something and you gotta warm them up to it. And if you're trying to learn these concepts on your own, you gotta warm yourself up to them. Don't start with the most technical things in the beginning.
I agree
Unless
with
you're a
that.
technical person.
For me, I started watching like a YouTube video that's been taken down because it was too specific, but still, that's how I started.
I recommend, okay, to get better in general, one thing you shouldn't do is a lot of people think in like checklists, literally do this, do that, do this, do that. That's not really going to help you, especially if you happen to make it to nationals. That's not going to help you at all because there's a live team doing crazy stuff and your lists aren't going to help you at all. If you learn actual methodology and concepts, it helps you build a mindset to look for new things, not just what's on your list. It helps you actually discover stuff versus do this, do that.
Yeah, right.
Stuff.
Yeah.
Hey, I've got a question regarding scripts. Are we allowed to use scripts that weren't specifically made for CyberPatriot, but are just like general security, like similar to
I
check,
think-
right? Like,
long
are we
as
allowed
it's
to
not-
use other scripts?
You
That's
can use those.
yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
Well, please be be
But-
mindful. Remember, think about what nationals and the rules say. It is public knowledge. You
Alright,
cannot
good.
use any script or bring any electronic devices in. So it's not like you can have a thumb drive, plug it into your environment, and use it. It doesn't work that way.
Make your own real quick on spot.
How would you go about
good
utilizing
heavens.
CIS benchmarks? That's a good question.
Yeah.
I think I'd like to do that one, at least specifically for Windows. For most of the CIS benchmarks, they get super specific about what they do and why they, do what they do. For me, I like to learn why exactly they're doing it. And the really good thing about the CIS benchmarks is they inform you as to why you're doing the thing you're doing. Why are you setting this setting? What you want to do is you want to learn how to do most of them, and you want to understand the really important things on there. Once you familiarize yourself with most of the CIS benchmarks in there, and by most I mean just the concepts of what they do, why you're doing them, it's pretty easy to read through them again while you're in competition. Because if you're just going head in with CIS benchmarks and you don't understand how to do at least like one thing, say edit a specific registry setting, you're gonna run into some little roadblocks. Every second counts in competition. I've had moments where I've earned like 20 points, and that ends up giving me a really good shot for state. I actually ended up winning because it was like, did you guys go through the CIS benchmarks? Did you at least look at them like before competition? And my teammates were like, no, we didn't. They were boring. And I was like, all right, thanks. And then I went through it. I got some points, and I was like, wow, that was great. I'm making you guys do this homework. So warm yourself up to them, learn the concepts of them, and then you'll be good to go from there.
I think
Okay, but still to be
if
mindful about the CIS benchmark. So it is 700 something pages depending on which ones you look at. You need to be mindful of which ones to actually use and do.
Yep. And that is up to other people to find out, because that's valuable information. But we'll give you some starters on that one.
I think the main reason why people are so turned away by the CIS benchmarks, though, for the main reason, is because of how many pages there are. For some people, it's way too much information to be taken in at once.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
I agree.
No one wants to sit through that and read through every single thing.
Right.
I don't.
I mean, what if you're like a super autist?
Okay, but we can assume that most people aren't super autists, so.
Unfortunate.
Danny asked, any ways of practicing, for example, questions to get images from that aren't CyberPatriot or CyberCenturion images?
Don't we have a couple of them?
Yeah, there are a couple of those on the FAQ, on the wiki. We can post those, I guess.
Yeah, those can work. Go into the operating system yourself, mess around with them.
Make your own. Easy.
Yeah, break the operating system, and then figure out how things work.
Make your own operating system as well.
Yeah, make your own operating system.
Yeah, go all out if you really want to. That's fine.
Let's go, kernel
Let's
development.
not forget that cyber.
I mean, all you have to do is just get cloned to Linux repository.
Yeah.
Let's not forget that CyberHub has resources.
If you really want to, you can even do it in competition, but don't expect you being productive.
Yeah. What the heck are you doing? We have 20 minutes. Oh, I'm making my own OS. I'll get back to you later.
Yeah. But yes,
Making an OS, Pinterest. Making an OS, Pinterest. What's the difference?
Pinterest. The only place you should really ask for operating system development.
Yeah.
Well, we also had an issue yesterday that I was discussing how two of my teammates were pretty much useless. One, because the school banned him from competing because of something silly he typed in a unrelated group chat, and someone in the CyberPatriot group was also in there, kind of got salty and reported that for some reason. And then another person on our team, he was our networking guy.
I envy that guy.
Yeah, he was on Pinterest almost the entire time. It was pretty great because he didn't do almost any Cisco, and we like choked on Cisco.
So the thing you want us to take away from this is Pinterest is evil. Don't use it. Got it.
Very.
Anything with social media is evil.
Also, don't let one of the members of another team at your school sit there and watch
Videos. Just off topic, not related videos. We'll put it like that.
stuff you shouldn't be watching in school, kids.
Not the Pinterest guy, but the other guy.
I played
This is a-
American Truck Simulator during the semifinals.
Really?
I was sad the whole time.
I'm
Yeah,
just
this
playing-
kid
It's a long
watched,
story. Yeah, it's a long story. You'd understand if I told you.
Yeah,
I'm just playing
that-
some Free Fire 2 right now, right, guys?
Okay. Rhino says, I have barely worked with Packet Tracer, so I don't quite know how it works in the competition. Can someone explain?
All right, that's a really good one. I'm used to this one. So when you go do packet tracer in competition, this is pretty much the whole thing. You're gonna get a you're gonna get a bunch of information. It's gonna tell you what you need to do. In the earlier rounds, it's gonna be really easy. They're gonna be like, all right, you need to do this, and you need to follow our instructions, and you'll get a good score. That's great. Eventually, you're gonna have to do some more advanced stuff, and if you don't practice, you're gonna have a bad time unless you're really good at following instructions. So they tell you exactly what you need to do. As the competition advances, they're going to be less specific on what exactly you need to do. It's going to be really vague, and you're going to be Googling a lot of stuff if you didn't study it up. Use the modules that CyberPatriot gives. It's a lot of information, but if you practice with it and whatnot, and you learn what it's actually telling you, it gets easier. But otherwise, Cisco is pretty intense for the first year at least.
If I may add something in there. So one thing my coach said when I was, or my old coach said when I was at the meeting a couple of days ago, the number one thing is if you're only gonna put an hour a week, like so our teams practice every Wednesday for about 3:30 to 4:30. If you only put an hour a week, you're not gonna succeed at all. If you put an hour a day, you'll be a lot better at it.
Yeah. Here's a really good tip for Cisco specifically. Look, no one likes to sit through Canvas or whatever it is that Netacad utilizes to show you those modules. Here's my personal recommendation. If you get bored with a certain chapter, switch between chapters. Like say you're bored on chapter 2, go check out a little bit of chapter 3, and when you're bored of chapter 3, go back to chapter 2 or do that other stuff. That one really helped me push through Cisco because it's kind of boring looking at all the different ways you can, subnet IPv4. That one really got me bored when I was just barely getting into Cisco. So if you get bored of something, switch it around, mix things up. You don't have to go straight forward until your brain is dead from learning how to do Cisco stuff.
Danny asks, are there any tools that you're allowed to recommend, such as IP tables?
I wouldn't recommend Nessus, but you can't really use it anymore.
That's
At
why I
least
use
last year.
Tiger. It's like
Yeah, Artie, please.
What? Do you not know what Tiger is?
I personally never used it, but I mean, I think I know what it is.
Yeah,
Alright.
don't.
I thought you were referring to Ranger.
Why is it bad?
Okay. The ones in the wiki are good. Those are useful. Yeah, I think that's it. I don't use anything other than what I've put in the wiki already. So just check out the wiki. That's pretty cool. There's good stuff there.
Do you know what Tiger is though?
All right, how much time would you
wait.
recommend per day, per week? That we kind of answered that just now, but
Yeah, I kind of answered that. I would say put an hour a day, honestly, at least.
yeah.
So about 7 hours a week.
So yeah, I'm curious. Practicing weekly.
Huh.
I've heard stories. I can never get a factual confirmation.
Wait, what?
Yeah, I can't hear him either.
I'm curious, how many hours does the North Hollywood teams practice?
24/7, 365 days a year.
Right.
Yup.
Yeah, I would.
Plus Ultra.
Yeah, well, don't do that. That's probably not going to get you very far. That's probably just going to tire you out. So don't
So I
overdo
have-
it.
So this is what I understand.
Hello.
Factual.
Hello? Why do you keep cutting out like that?
Make sure to answer Steve's question.
What do you say?
He said I was wondering
Especially
if you
a
could.
rubber ducky.
Yeah.
Why would you? I don't know why you would use them in the first place.
Well, USB rubber ducky, those things are great.
Yeah.
But you
I don't know
actually
about
have-
competition though.
Yeah.
It's just basically the same thing as a script, for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
You have to actually plug it in.
Yeah. What other questions do we have? Are there any more in the?
Why does it only work that way? That doesn't make sense.
There was one. Do you recommend focusing on one OS per team member, or do you think having a go at all images would be beneficial?
I would say no, personally. One person for all images? No, not at all.
It's
If
good
that's what
to
you're saying.
it's good to have knowledge of other operating systems. Like you should know what you're doing in all three. Cisco.
Yeah, I would
Windows,
say
Linux.
keep some information retained, but I wouldn't say try to put all of your effort into all three because that's just gonna it's gonna wear you out real quick.
Yeah, the best case is if every team member has the one thing they can do really well and they don't have to rely on each other, but that's obviously not always possible. So
here's how my team does it. During the 6-hour competition, we'll figure out who's starting on what. I'm generally a Windows guy, so I'll start on Windows, and if we get stuck, we'll transition. I know Windows and Linux pretty well, I'd say. So if my friend is stuck on Linux, we'll switch. I get on Linux, he gets on Windows. Same goes with everything. Someone gets stuck on Cisco, we'll switch. Just keep it going.
right.
All right, whose dog is that?
Hmm.
All right, what's the next question? Is there any more questions?
This person says, do you do any other InfoSec related programs?
I want to start CCDC later in the year.
I'm assuming he's like talking about other like competitions and stuff like that. Personally, I just do things on my own time. Honestly, I put about 8 hours of work every day into trying to learn stuff.
Danny posted a question I think we can all relate to. Have you had any experiences where team members are not pulling their own weight, and if so, how did you sort that out?
Yup.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Oh,
Pinterest.
Oh man.
Okay,
Hey.
I'm not gonna name any names because there's probably some people from my team watching. But 2 people on my team, every competition, they will pull up Africa by Toto. Every competition. And listen to it, blazing it out loud.
No dear. Yeah.
And
Dude, my
we
friend
never
fell
did
asleep
anything.
at semifinals.
One of the kids on one of the other teams at my school, he would consistently just not show up for competition, and during practice, he would watch stuff he shouldn't be watching at school. We've also had to kick off of our internal Discord because he had a inappropriate profile picture. And the reason why he kept missing competition was because he was watching the very same inappropriate videos. I'm not going to specifically call out what it is. But there's a reason why
Africa
I
by
have
Toto.
banned him from
Who did this?
from teams.
Yeah.
Here,
I think we've all been in a situation. So like, how have some of you dealt with it?
I would love to go ahead and talk about this one. So, when I was ruling the club, and I did it out of the goodness of my heart, there were obviously going to be people who didn't really care. Some people on my team were included in that. Now, some teams are a little more harsh about it. Some teams aren't. I had my friends on my team, and they really were the best people at our school, but sometimes they really did not pull their weight. To sort those kinds of things out, you kind of have to be really like firm about it with them. You know, I told them I won't let you compete. I will convince them to not let you compete if you don't pull your weight. We're the best team in the school, and I want us to do our absolute best. And if you aren't pulling your weight, then it's not worth it. You know, even if they are your closest friends, you don't want them, dragging down the potential of the team. So that's probably the best way to handle it. If they're not your friends and they're just, you know, random people, you know, be like, hey, you're easily replaceable. Just like that. I could say that to my friends as well, but, you know, the thing, it's really hard sometimes. You know,
As much
sometimes
as
you
I
really have to
wish-
put your foot down.
As much as I wish I could kick people out, I really can't because I'm pretty sure it's a rule to where you can, like, as soon as you make the team, like, you cannot change it whatsoever. I'm not sure if that's, I don't know if that's still completely like that or not, but
Yeah. I like to do this kind of thing at the beginning of the year where people will, you know, work together. I kind of observe how people work together. You know, some people were friends and they worked together great. Some people were friends and all they would do would be talking and stuff like that. I even went ahead and asked people, hey, be honest with me. Do you actually care about this competition? Do you actually care about anything? Some people definitely told me no. They were like, no, I don't care. I was told I can get out of school, we can eat food, and we can have fun. And I was like, all right, you're going on this team. Be active, be helpful, and keep in mind as to how people act. It's important to, you know, talk to the mentors, talk to whoever is in charge, you know, try to take the initiative and you know, help people out. I've helped people make really good teams and they would perform very well together. And, you know, people who didn't really care too much, they still worked well with others, you know. It just really depends. And you said, how many friendships were broken? None. You know, what I did out of the good of my heart, and I realized to myself, you know, like, it's not gonna be bad. They'll be fine. Even the people on my team, they were kind of like, okay, fine, I'll practice and all this other stuff. It just took a lot of pushing.
Oh yeah, and another thing is that in my experience with competition, I've had one friendship break due to CyberPatriots. Oof! And it was one of my closest friends as well.
With my experience, I had a team member who did nothing, and he was assigned a certain machine, and he got under 10 points, and his excuse was he'd never seen Windows before. Yet my other team member who never seen Windows or Linux, he pulled his weight and got good 50, 60 points within the first hour, and he'd never seen either. So we basically sort of cut him out. He still competed with quotation marks, but he really did nothing. He was our researcher.
Yeah, well, so once you get better, then
Researcher.
yeah, that's basically what we had for our last guy usually. It would be sometimes we'll just have one person on Windows, one person on Linux, one person on Cisco, and then we'll have two people do research in the background while we're trying to find other things. So we'll be like, hey, research this. I'm not going to say anything specific, but we're going to say, research this and give me what you come up with.
right.
I'm gonna be honest.
So
if I
does
ever asked
any of you
anyone
guys think
to,
that's not
Mr. Robot, stop! All right.
That's a really loud dog.
His dog's screwing on the mic.
Make him stop.
The mic is a squeaky toy.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest with you just for a second. This is just something I want to add in. Anytime I asked anyone to do any research, they never came up with anything good. When, you know, I think you were talking earlier about, like, how much did some people pull, some people didn't pull. I really did a lot for my team. I did Cisco, I did Windows, I taught them everything that I could. That was good. But, you know, when it came to, like, Linux, by knowing those cybersecurity concepts, that really helped me whenever I needed to, you know, help them out and, like, do things for them in Linux. But, you know, whenever I tried to ask them to do research, they didn't really get anything new. I mean, they learned stuff, that was good, but they didn't really show me anything, you know, new or something I didn't know. So that's kind of disappointing. But that's one thing you could ask them to do. Tell them to do some research if it's stuff you know, but stuff they didn't know. That's great. They're learning. Focus on the learning part of this. It's a competition. You want to learn things. If, you know, they learn, that's good. But, you know, that's something.
I want to go back on the part where we were talking about people who don't pull their weight. And not only is the guy who kept playing Africa by Toto not participating anymore, there was another guy on our team. Like I said, I don't want to name any names. Literally, when he was assigned to a machine during competition, he would always have his laptop, and I would think, okay, maybe he's gonna do some research on the side. Not at all. He's playing fucking Metro, or what is the game called? Metro. What's the latest Metro called? What is that? I don't know the name. I don't play Metro, so I don't know. Well, anyways, he was playing the latest Metro game on his laptop, and he would never get anything done. And then whenever I confronted him about it, he'd be like, "Okay, I'll get it done." And then he never gets in. He sits at Windows for like 10 minutes, and he goes back to his game. And it's personally, I just find it annoying, but I lived with it for 2 years, so yeah.
Alright, I apologize. I threw that mic away. Can you hear me good now?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Alright.
kind of robot boy.
Thanks.
Mr. Robot.
He's not a good Mr. Robot imitation.
Hey, Shu, you're
He's,
still.
he's
you're,
just a wannabe hacker man.
Shu, you're,
Hey,
you're
hey,
still
hey,
kind of
hey,
blowing
Hacker
in.
man.
You're still kind of blowing into your mics. Could you move it a bit? Just a little bit. Yeah.
Wait, who you
alright.
talking to?
You.
Me?
Yeah, Shu.
Oh, I'm not Shu.
I'm Shu.
Yeah.
Yeah, who's having a good old breathe in their microphone? Come on.
I
Yeah.
am, my bad.
Just move it out
I'm
a
gonna
little
have
bit.
to ask you to not.
My
breathe,
mic
so-
actually also generates some static by itself, and it can sound like it's breathing
yeah.
instead of static. So
Oh, yeah.
I try to mute whenever I'm not talking.
Alright. Anything else we have that we haven't covered?
Well, also to add on to like preparing for the competition, get sleep. Don't
Yeah.
stress yourself by researching the night before, like staying up.
Yeah.
Your brain's not gonna function that well if you're up till like 5 and you wake up 3 hours later and you're competing. Don't do
Yeah.
that, please. I had a
And
friend
make
fall asleep.
sure if you take any form of medication that keeps you functional, take it.
Yeah.
Especially if you have ADHD.
Oh.
Oh, and if someone has Adderall, ask them to pass it over. So
That was my joke. That was my joke. That was my joke.
Yeah.
Don't bring your Adderall with you though.
pass the
Talon.
Adderall, bro.
Make it stop.
I don't do that. Even though I do have it.
No hackers allowed.
Do you know the way?
All right. So let's keep it up with the questions. By the way, let's keep that up.
I think someone asked what software they could use a while ago. I'm not sure if this was answered since I was kind of out of chat for a while, but anyone?
We did talk about that just a bit.
Yeah, we did talk a little bit about that. We didn't really go over what specific programs you could use. We did yesterday, but I don't think we did today.
Yeah.
So some of them I have in my back pocket. There's some like MBS, or this is for Windows anyways. MBSA, Security Essentials, Nine Nights, Process Hacker, Show Hidden, Malware Bytes, Rogue Killer, and EMET for server.
Mm-hmm.
Is that
And then some services, and this is kind of between Windows and Linux. IIS, SMB, SMTP, FTP, DNS, RDP, and Active Directory. Those are some things you want to look into.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Also,
It's
for
also
Linux,
Start with the basic ones. Don't get yourself messed up with Active
Yeah,
Directory.
yeah.
It's not call round one.
XD.
Mm-hmm.
okay.
Do we have any person-specific questions, maybe? Anything like that?
Going on the software part, kind of what you said. You got SMB, RDP. You know, like for FTP on Windows, look into FileZilla. For Linux, SSH, PHP, MySQL, Apache, Bind, XAMPP, Samba, all those.
Hey, good question by Steve. If you get locked out of an image, can you live boot Kali or something to do a password reset, or is that not allowed?
Okay, so on Ubuntu you can recovery boot, so that's not an issue. If you're on Windows,
live boot Kali or something like that.
well, there's no need to. You just recovery boot in VMware. Windows, you're kind of stuck. I guess you could live boot something, but that's really not something you should be doing.
We had another question from Dewoka. I don't know how to pronounce that. How did you get into SciPat?
Oh, this is a really good question. I have a really good story for this guy. Please go.
Okay.
Okay.
Please
So,
tell, because I want
it's a
to
little,
tell mine
little
afterwards.
butterfly effect thing, right? Have you ever heard of the butterfly effect? Right.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah.
like,
Oh yeah, butterfly
it's
effect.
like,
Did someone go
yeah.
back in time?
no. It was okay. It was sophomore year, right? No, wait. It was freshman year. It was freshman year. I got put into Algebra 1, Part 1, and I was like, what the hell? This is a class for stupid people. I don't want to be in here. So I asked my teacher, my counselor, hey, can I switch to normal Algebra 1? And they put me in Algebra 1. And then I met this guy named Seamus, right? And then he showed me like a bunch of like pamphlets for it, and like it got me hooked. It got me super hooked. And I just think back on it because when I was in that like dumb kid algebra class, I was considering, okay, do I switch or do I not? Like, do I want to go through that effort of going to a slightly harder math, or do I just like put away my self integrity? And I was like, you know what, screw it, I'll change. And if I hadn't met Seamus, I wouldn't have gone to CyberPatriot. And then the next year, if I hadn't joined JRTC, I wouldn't have done CyberPatriot. Like, it's just like I don't know how to like put this into words. Just like there were so many decisions leading up to that like if I had changed one thing, I wouldn't have even done CyberPatriot. So it's just crazy for me.
Yeah.
So for my story of CyberPatriots, the only reason why I knew that we had CyberPatriots is because in my engineering program that I did at my school, which actually got me to the school in the first place because I would be a transfer student. They sent out an email to all the engineering students, mentioning how there was going to be a CyberPatriot informational meeting for my school, and I'm like, okay, let's just see what they have. And they had people from the field and all that. They were mentioning Linux. I'm like, oh boy, because I'm already a Linux user by then. And well, I've been a Linux user all my life, but the only reason why I actually joined CyberPatriot was because they did mess with Linux. Had I not gotten that email, I would have never known about it because school doesn't advertise it at all, and we're not even considered an official club at my school, and the school doesn't really like us to begin with.
Yeah.
For me, oh, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm next up.
For me, actually, it was like probably 3 years ago. In my math class, my math teacher was also the sponsor for CyberPatriot, so she sent out like announcements and stuff, and I thought it seemed pretty cool. But I was only in 6th grade, so I couldn't do it. So next year, I went into middle school and was real excited to go. And then I went to the first meeting, and they were all like, so we all have practice every single Monday, and that was the one day of the week that I couldn't go because I had other things to go to. So in all of 7th grade, I couldn't do CyberPatriot. So in 8th grade, CyberPatriot 10, I could finally do it. So I went all in, and because I couldn't do it for 2 years in a row, so I really wanted to just like go all in 8th grade, and well, there you go.
All right. So for me, I started getting dragged into it in 8th grade when they didn't have a middle school program.
Toasty is ancient.
Yeah, so when I was in middle school, CyberPatriot 6 had ended, and we actually had a JRTC team who went to nationals, and I was like, "Wow, that's pretty cool. I guess y'all are pretty good." It turns out we had a teenager who was he was a gray hat, and he was really good at everything related like that. And I was like, okay, that's cool. So I learned stuff from him. When I started, we were terrible. We didn't make it to semifinals, and no one was into it. Everyone was bored all the time, and all we did was look at PowerPoints. You can imagine how terrible we would be. This is another thing, by the way, where if you want to get better, and if you want other people to get better, stop with PowerPoints. Let people learn on their own, or make the lessons interesting. At that point, I had started like getting into it in the sense of like, I want to learn how to do this. I want to, put my own time into it. I want to make my own lessons. So sophomore year came up, and I really started getting into it. I started making lessons. I started teaching my teammates, and we started doing way better. But that's pretty much how I got into it. A gray hat. I started in middle school, and then gray hat taught me a bunch of stuff. and it was really good from there. So that's how I found the passion. I wouldn't have found it any other way. I don't think I would have.
And one thing to add on to that is that like a lot of people are definitely getting bored in CyberPatriot. So like if you're like a leader of some sort or even just like a team member, it's really important if you try to make the lessons like really interactive. Like go on the CyberPatriot website and like use the scoring engine and make practice images on your own. That'll definitely teach them a lot.
All right, so
Wait, do you guys even have like captains? Or...
Fine, whatever. Go.
Yeah.
what?
Rainbow.
What? So to add on to that, I started CyberPatriot in 6th grade. I actually had people in the program when it started before me. A friend told me about it. A close friend of mine. I'm like, okay, this sounds cool. I get in. I had no idea what Linux was at all. I never even heard about it. I was mainly a Windows dude. I did computer science before, very little. And at that time, we did have one person who did compete in the past. She taught me a little bit, and I got really motivated to start learning. So within a few weeks, I was doing a lot of research, and I ended up becoming my team captain or leader. And I ended up teaching my team throughout all my years. Any advice to leaders would be, like Toasty said, create your own practice material and lessons and make them interactive. So for me, I would give them real life examples, and I would make practice images for them and challenge them with different material, and that's how they would stay motivated. And another thing, when you're having them practice, don't give them the answers right away. The best way to do it is try to get them, help them along the way until they actually get it, because that way they're actually learning and you're not just not giving the answers.
You know, I'd like to add on to that real quick. So whenever you're teaching stuff, you could either warm up to it or you could straight out give them the answer. But you obviously giving them the answer is not going to help them at all. So the way I did it was I taught them, like, here, this is the solution, this is how this is the solution, and then I show them how to do it. And here's the thing, I'll stop using this method if they're not learning anything, and how I know they're learning stuff is sometimes I'll teach some stuff, or I'll give them a thing to do, and if they can do it on their own by figuring out the solution on their own, that's good. That's good to go. And I can keep doing the method that I'm doing. But if they're just listening for answers and they're not really learning anything, then I revert back to a method where I just teach them the details, how it's done and whatnot, and then I'll let them try to get the end result. That's important to keep in mind.
Does anyone else want to share how they got into CyberPatriot?
Was it like a cult? Like, did you walk into the computer classroom and they were just swapping out the hard drives?
Yeah, that's kind of what it's with me. Like, honestly, like a cult.
Our school can't let us use VMware, so we brought it from home. Their own hard drive.
I just brought a custom ISO and installed it on my school's computers because they don't have the BIOS locked. So.
All right. So we're cutting pretty close to our 1 hour mark. So does anyone have anything that we haven't discussed yet we really want to cover?
Somebody asked, what do you do with extra team members when you have 3 images?
Well, having more than one set of eyes on one image is always good, so in case you make mistakes, someone can catch it.
Also, Cisco. That would help if you were to have extra team members doing Cisco.
Yeah.
Well, don't forget, during the semifinals in the platinum round,
does middle school do Cisco a lot? I don't remember.
Middle school
does Cisco and semis.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
It was.
I don't compete. I
get
I have
8 points
middle
in
school.
Cisco.
In high school, you do it almost every round, so.
Yeah.
Almost.
Cisco is generally good to know, but I wouldn't make your teammates eat the Cisco modules, unless they want to. I would say 2 of each, like 2 of each thing is good. 2 Windows, 2 Linux, and maybe 2 Cisco, and have one of the Cisco people focus a little less on it and more on like whichever side needs, you know, help. That's my personal preferred setup. That was pretty much our setup at my school, where it was we got 2 Windows people, 2 Linux people, 1 Cisco person, and then I pretty much did everything else, or pretty much everything. So, you know, that's sometimes how it has to be. Sometimes people can't, you know, do something, and you gotta respect that. It's not good to force your team members to do something they don't want to do, unless they're on the top team and, you know, they gotta represent.
Oh, by the way, I was on the top team for my school, so it was kind of embarrassing.
Me too.
Pinterest and
I was the
having
only
kids
team in
banned.
my middle school, so
Yeah.
However, we were the only ones that actually attended semis at my school, so
I made it to Canadian
the only one
finals.
the only embarrassment that we did was to our coach. And even then, that was our secondary coach because our main coach didn't make it to that competition. So.
Okay.
What happened? Did you get like a negative score like that?
There's a good reason why I don't think we have that secondary coach anymore. Don't scare off your coach, kids.
Okay, what about what Danny said?
Yeah.
Any advice for collaborating as a team if we're not actually in the same part of the country as other members of the team?
Wait, what?
Wait, what?
Wait, what? You want to? Okay, let me
elaborate.
Any advice for collaborating as a team if we're not actually in the same part of the country? Okay, are y'all one of those like teams where it's like, you know, we're in different parts of the country, we're just kind of thrown together? I don't
Take some
understand.
country roads.
I mean, I can give you some like good advice on like how to get better as a team. This is probably the best. This is probably a really good one for me. Hang out, you know, get to know each other, and you know, get to know each other's strengths and weaknesses. I think me and my friends who were on a team together, we're all still really good friends today. Every time, you know, we're in town, we hang out with each other and all that other stuff. And you know, just hang out and get to know each other. You know, that's a good one.
Wait, those teams actually exist?
Dude, that was literally my team. One of us is studying to be a lawyer. One of us is going to be a history teacher. One of them is a blacksmith. One of them is studying to become a software developer. I'm working on being a infosec person, and then another one of us is still in high school. So even if we're not in the same backgrounds and all that other stuff, y'all can hang out and you know have a good time. It makes the thing kind of stronger, where it's like, yeah, I'll definitely do this for you. You know, I'll pull my extra weight if I have to. It's
but
important
Toasty,
yeah.
Well, my question was more so one of, there are teams that have multiple team members spanned across the country?
Yeah, no, I know. I was giving like a general kind of like thing. Like if you want to get better as a team, that's one thing I would suggest. As for the other thing, I have no idea what you could possibly do.
Okay, so they're in the UK.
Ah, so you're one of them cyber scubas.
Cyber.
No, they're
Scuba.
Okay, we don't need.
They're not a cyber
Scuba Squad was
they're a
here.
cyber centurion. They're from my part of the world.
Alright, I'm already having flashbacks to Scuba
Cyber
Squad.
Cyber
Oh, here's a good one.
Scuba Squad was here.
Here's a good one. Danny is asking if you're really stuck and the clock's ticking down, any last ditch things to check or do that you're allowed to say to score a few last points.
Okay, so yeah, if you're stuck, disregarding the time part first. If you're stuck, read me again and again. Make sure you don't miss something. If there's something like a requirement that you didn't get or you saw but you don't know how to do, take that time to research. If the time is running out, just quit. You do not want to get a penalty. That's it.
Yeah, don't go for penalty.
Oh yeah, and they're not joking when they say it can take a few minutes for the score to stop. We had a team at our school who stopped right at the 6-hour mark, and they got a penalty, or they got a warning because it didn't stop.
And make
until a
sure
few
when
minutes
you
later.
when you stop the image is actually like VMware is done for. I don't know how this happened, but I've seen a few teams that were running for like 100 hours. I don't know how. But,
I remember that.
Yeah.
Oh, a funny thing about that one is we were in semifinals for CyberPatriot.
Oh yeah, about that
And what happened was we were like, oh my god, we're gonna go over the time, and we didn't know if the image was finished getting shut down, and the oldest person on my team, he just got up, he ripped out the power cord, and we thought it was okay from there.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. Like, hopefully the actual computer is okay, but it's just a virtual image. If you're done with it, who cares? Just unplug it. If you're really scared.
I've heard that it's better. I've heard that it's better to actually suspend the image instead of shutting it down, because from what I've heard is that when you shut it down, there's like a chance like one of the services will shut off too, like before the whole thing shuts off, and then you'll lose points.
That's actually correct. You should actually technically at all times suspend the image.
Oof.
So last year they introduced that shutdown process, but I don't trust it. So
How about you just unplug the power cable?
I mean, if you really want to, that will always work.
Because suspending requires a lot of time.
Delete
because you have to
System
suspend
32.
RAM to the disk.
Yeah.
And
I mean, just delete System 32. That's good.
Okay.
That's everything.
All right. We're over time, but the question is: are some of the more obscure things reused? So.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we're not allowed to really share a lot, but yes. Would
Also,
would hack the box be a good reference to learn about vulnerabilities?
Yeah.
Yes.
I guess.
Yeah. That's
No.
Yeah.
Actually, I would say I'm a little 50-50 on that. I've done quite a bit on hack the box personally. I do a lot of hack the box actually. I do a lot of penetration testing and a lot of that stuff because I don't really care too much about. I mean, I do care. It's just that I'm not researching as much on how to find something really obscure and stupid where I could be learning something I might be using later on, where I'm not learning where to find a netcat backdoor anytime soon. So, I mean, that's just me though.
You're learning how to make the netcat backdoor.
Yeah,
no,
but
making
don't.
netcat backdoors.
Yeah, netcat's pretty basic. It was
And
like
usually
mainly
most people don't even need netcat installed really. Usually people disable that, or at least that's what I've seen from benchmarks.
netcat's a tool.
I know, and people uninstall it.
Okay.
Netcat's a virus according to CyberPatriot.
Yeah.
Unwanted program.
All right, so we're gonna try and finish up a bit here. So
I actually have one last question.
Uh-huh.
So this goes for anybody who is a team captain. I think you guys can answer this pretty well.
We have another whole
especially
hour.
Josh.
You guys realize, right?
Huh?
We have a whole another hour. It's only 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock.
Really? Oh, how long is the thing?
Till
6:45.
Oh.
Whoa,
But I'm gonna be leaving pretty soon.
Really? Well, okay. I guess we have to.
Wow.
Yeah.
I thought it was gonna be over at 6. I gotta go at
That's
6
fine.
too.
You can leave. That's fine if you want.
Well, no, I can't leave because I have to stream. But...
Oh, also about a Tuesday.
I guess whoever's leaving, let's do some last minute questions for those people who are
Yeah.
a little bit.
Well, okay. Just to finish off what I was saying, anybody who is a team leader can answer this. Because I'm going to high school, I'm in a bit of a pickle because I want to go back to my middle school to teach, but I want to know when am I actually allowed to teach? Josh, do you have any advice, or Toasty, whatever? Because I'm still competing.
I say if you're teaching and everything, you have fair game to teach them everything. You can't teach them vulnerabilities, how to press the right buttons. But you do have the right to actually teach them everything and anything under the sun, short of giving them the answers. Remember, this is not a competition about pressing levers to win. It's on learning cybersecurity.
I just teach them like I teach them things, and then they're gonna ask me, "Hey, does this give me points?" I'm gonna be like, "Nah, you don't get to know that. You just get to learn from me." And that's pretty much how it goes. And you know they're still pretty thankful about that, so that's good. You know, obviously you can teach them methods, and you'll know that they give them points, but they won't know that. So, you know, teach them pretty much a bit of everything. Even if it does or doesn't give them points.
I was thinking like, because they're pretty new, I wanted to introduce them to like stuff that CyberPatriot doesn't go over. I know back like last year I got into privilege escalation. I thought that was really cool. I taught a few of my friends it, and I just want to teach general security, but I want to make sure I'm cleared for that.
Yeah. Just don't kill them through PowerPoint, and you're doing God's work.
No, I'm doing challenges, practice images, and stuff like that.
You'd make them suffer.
Okay. Does anyone need to leave it?
All right, I'm gonna go because I'm going somewhere right now.
Okay.
I got like 5 minutes, and then I got a blast. So any Toasty specific questions?
Yeah. Are you making a? Do you plan on making a Linux book?
So it's gonna actually release by the end of December. I took a Linux class at college, and it was very helpful, and I learned a lot about Linux. I can't recall it right now because I only activate my brain during school. When I'm taking another Linux class, I'm taking like an advanced one that teaches us like LDAP and a bunch of other stuff for Linux. So when I'm like done with that Linux class and I've pretty much formulated all my notes, I'm gonna be releasing a Linux manual, though it will be on a different par of the Windows one. So my Windows one literally goes over CyberPatriot related stuff. It just doesn't talk about it. The Linux one is going to be more about just Linux rather than the competition, because personally I've never competed. I've never done a Linux image in CyberPatriot competition. I've seen them being done. I've helped out, but I've never been like the actual driver of the image. So I have no real like knowledge on like what to do during competition for Linux, but I will be giving out a Linux guide that pretty much simplifies things, makes it so you know you don't have to go into GitHub and find the answers of life on Linux. It's going to be a simple guide that pretty much introduces Linux the same way as Windows, but it's also going to assume that you know how to use Windows at least. It's going to assume that you've read my Windows guide, so you're going to be on a decent par of knowledge, and from there it'll introduce you to Linux. So expect that in December. If not in December, I've given up on life, and I'm just gonna work at Target for the rest of my life.
Okay, can we get a thank you Toasty in chat, please?
Oh yeah.
Yes. Thanks, Dad. I'm kidding.
Oh, Toasty. Are you ever gonna stream PUBG?
I don't like PUBG.
Okay.
PUBG. It's that garbage.
Fortnite.
Dude,
Yeah.
that game's even worse.
Several people are.
I'll have you know, I bought a Samsung Galaxy Samsung Galaxy Tab S4 just for the skin. I can't wait to return it. When I get the skin, I'm returning it. Anyway, any other questions about me?
Someone said, how often should we back up the registry for?
I guess if you do any major changes to it, most of the time you don't really mess with the registry unless you know what you're doing. So I guess every time you do something, and even then you got to be careful, because if you do something and your operating system is not recoverable, good luck getting in there in the first place. Is there anything else? F.
Let me see if I can still access my Indicat account. I probably can't because my email account's dead. But I'll try it.
Yeah, and to keep in mind, by the way, my Cisco guide is literally a reference guide. It is not a product of me. Sure, I explain things and like I try to make them in my own words, but most of the time, it's just like, I don't know what to call it, a reference guide, literally.
All right, I'm gonna dip. See you, Daniel. See you guys.
I think I'm pretty much good. If there are no more questions for me, in that case, I'll see y'all later. It's fun to be a part of the panel, and if there are any other ones, I'd be more than happy to be a part of it.
Yep. Thanks, Toasty.
Yeah, if anybody has questions, just PM me to everybody in the stream.
Yeah.
At least we're not playing Minecraft like iMac.
Oh yeah.
All right, look, there's nothing wrong with Minecraft. It's just blocks and building houses. All right. Have a good one, guys. Enjoy the rest of the stream. If you have any questions, feel free to message me or just like tag me in a question and I'll get back to you on it. Goodbye.
All right. Bye.
Don't ping spam.
Don't ping.
All right. Well, we've got less people here now, so.
Oh yeah, I actually still have access to my
A
old
lot
site
of problems
page.
are reused.
We already said
But
that.
I'm not going to say. Well, this
Yeah.
guy just asked.
Yeah. Yeah, they are reused.
I'm not saying what is reused because I
Yes,
can't.
they are reused. I guarantee you, a lot of the stuff is reused. The
There was
images are
actually
very
one
similar
image
to
that
each
had
other.
the same scenarios.
Mhm.
Don't quote me on that, by the way.
A little bit upwards, Danny asked, would you suggest to double and triple check what you've done so far on an image, and how often should we do it if we should?
Oh, he also just asked how much more does the difficulty increase by each round?
That really depends.
It varies a lot.
For me,
CP9, round 2 to states, manslaughter. States to regionals, serial killing.
Okay, hold on a second. CyberPatriot 9 from state, from round 2 to state was not that bad. I think I got a pretty decent score if I remember correctly. I just don't remember what it was. But
I say manslaughter because some of our other good teams at my school got completely destroyed by it.
Wow.
However, the true manslaughter was.
Yeah. If you want to talk about
regionals.
manslaughter, let's talk about states to regionals.
They added Debian to it, to the whole mix. Therefore, you can not only just have one Linux person. Furthermore, they didn't announce that they were adding Debian to it until not that long before. So if they say to be announced later operating system or something like that this year, hint hint, it's probably another Linux.
I remember somebody was talking about some leaks or something recently, saying that something about there's going to be CentOS this year. I don't believe that, but I don't
Debian.
know. I've heard that before though.
Like,
Maybe it was
I'm guessing. Like, I just get a feeling that Debian will be released.
I have a feeling that there's going to be more than just Ubuntu this year as well.
Oh God, I really hope not.
I hope it's not.
Because I'm going to have to double down on Linux training, which I mean, I'm the only one at my school that's even comfortable in Linux, so it's not a problem with me. But last year, for reference, we didn't do any OS hardening for practice. We literally had kids, our leadership, doing nothing but Cisco slides the entire season. Yeah, you can imagine how many people we lost because of that. I was even tuning out because I'm like, I don't want to bother with. I don't listen. I already know most of this. Oh, also, tip if you're in a leadership position, do not just make them suffer Cisco slides.
Haven't you already said that?
Don't make them suffer Cisco at all.
Yeah, well, Cisco.
Basically.
Cisco, it's just grinding. You have to start early.
Yeah, start early, but don't overdo it.
Yeah, right.
Because you want to actually make sure that there's room for actual OS hardening in your planning.
Right.
For us, we didn't have that.
Right at the beginning of the season, you should figure out who your Cisco guy is and get them started right away. Because it's a lot of content.
Definitely.
Actually, here's my mentions. So, I don't know if you guys had this or not, but there was some modules I got during. I don't remember what year I got it from. I think it was CyberPatriot 10 right at the beginning. There was a couple of Linux modules, Linux Essentials and Linux Unhatched. I'm going through them right now. What? Did somebody say something?
That was Lighthouse.
Yeah, that was Lighthouse.
Get back in here.
Get back in here, Daddy. Wait, what?
Hey.
He's my dad.
Oh man.
Cisco sweatshop initiate. Oof.
what is this? Oh,
Don't-
that's actually
don't-
cool. I didn't even notice. So, if you try using the Linux Essentials, like should say for example, the module, it actually, I forgot about this, but it actually gives you a terminal on the right side of it that lets you like play with it a little bit. It's pretty nice.
Here's how I'm going to teach my members this year. I'm going to SSH it to my Linux server, and then do a lot of fun interactively. Because there's not as much fun unless if you're actually doing something on real production hardware. However, don't try this at home, kids. I'm only doing it because I really don't have much going on.
Let's see, chapter 2, open source applications and licenses.
All right. Anything else we haven't covered yet?
Not really. I mean, we still have another hour to go, or 45 minutes to go.
We don't have to go all the way if we really.
I guess.
How long was yesterday's stream?
It was pretty good.
Like, how long was it? It's like an hour.
We lasted till about. I think it was like near the ending though. It was really close to the ending. I'm pretty sure it was like at like.
No, it was 1 hour 27. So I mean, we don't really have to continue if there's anything else, but we can keep going if there's any questions. This is about how long yesterday's was too.
It's not cybersecurity, it's cyber manslaughter.
Question: has anyone tried resetting passwords using a script in Linux and Windows? Yes, I have done it. For me, it
Do
was
not
fine.
do it.
Do not.
I would not suggest it personally.
Some people say don't do it, but it's worked okay. Just be careful. Don't screw things up.
To be honest, for password account management, the only thing I do that's automated for account management is disabling the root account and for scripting. If you're scripting, the only account management I recommend you do is disable root account, disable root password, and account policies. That's all I would do.
I'm trying to see if I still have my CyberPatriot 9 and 10 shirts. What they are. Somebody was talking about their CyberPatriot shirt. No, I have somewhere. That's when I went to a different competition. Basically, people were really dense there, so I didn't care about it. I didn't even participate really. Literally, the whole competition there was basically anything like Hack in the Box. Basically, it would be cryptography, let's see, some web stuff, some really basic, really garbage stuff. It was really boring. I still won anyways, just because my friend was there. That one, I don't use that one. I usually use.
I just use one exclamation point because you just have to hit the key at the same time, dude. Easy peasy.
I prefer the
Efficiency.
question mark because it's right next to the enter key.
That's what I use.
I have a question for anyone who has already transitioned from middle school to high school competition. How much harder, and like, what's some things you could do to prepare for that? Because I'm transitioning into high school, and there are no high school teams.
Yeah, I am as well. So that's a good question.
I have no clue. I didn't transition.
I didn't either.
I think that would have been a good question to ask people who have already left.
Yeah. Well, they left.
I mean, it depends what round you're talking about.
Why do we not have Windows XP background music? Did it get voted out?
No, it's on the stream. We just can't hear it.
If you like listen to this, if you listen
Okay,
to this,
Steve.
stream,
Steve
you can hear it.
transitioned. Steve transitioned.
Well,
I guess you can elaborate on that.
Yo, what's the keybind to make a new tab? Forgot.
Control T.
Control Shift T, or is it Control T?
I think forgot. I don't really use keyboard for most of this stuff.
Well, actually, I can say that it depends what level you are in high school. Because I remember in middle school we got the usually silver, sometimes gold images. So if you're at the gold levels in high school, it'll probably be about the same. But if you want to be at the top, I'm guessing it'll be really hard. I haven't seen them yet. I don't know.
I might actually do some hack-the-box. Actually, would you guys like to watch a live stream of that? Of me doing some hack-the-box stuff?
Maybe later, but not now.
That would probably be really cool to live stream to see what...
Yeah.
So Steve says, regarding the middle school difficulty, basically anything that would get you to 100 on a middle school comp would get you roughly 75 points in a high school comp.
Yeah, I guess it's a good way to say it. Yeah. Alright, is that it? I mean, there's gonna be more questions.
Should we just give like basic advice on how the competition is for people who have never done it? Because that's something that would have been useful for me last year.
That would have been useful for me 3 years ago.
I think it's important to take breaks. That's what I would say.
Yeah, the guy who just said Cali Patriots right.
Should we have a small little rant about Cali Patriot?
No.
I honestly think there should be a limit on how many teams a school or a state sends.
But that's unfair because there's a lot of good teams in California. It's not like it's
yeah, like think about our 3 teams.
It's not like they're like. It's
just
not
make
like
it like minimum, like maximum of like 2 teams
like 5 max
per division, maybe.
They don't have any sort of advantage. They're just better. There's a lot of good teams in California, and if you don't let them compete, that's unfair.
Yeah.
How's that unfair?
How's that unfair?
Because if you're in a really not popular state, then you don't have to be very good to do the competition. But if you're California, then plenty of really good teams just aren't allowed to compete like that. So that's really not fair.
No, and here's the thing: if you limit how many teams can go from like a certain school, then you start having like rivalry, like you start having problems between teams. Like teams stop liking each other, teams stop helping each other. It becomes a whole mess.
Well, depending on where you're from, that's pretty much the normal. But I mean,
I remember like
less Sunday would help.
I remember like around the end we were like of last year we were discussing about how like each section of the state or like of the country would get to compete like a certain amount of teams per
like regional
region. Yeah. Oh, Danny just asked a question. Good one. In live rounds, did anyone take a breather and a fresh breath of air? Was it just nose to monitor for 6 hours?
I take multi-hour breathers if absolutely needed.
Yeah, do not just grind for 6 hours. That's a bad idea.
If you have to take a break for an hour, do it.
Like honestly, most people, if I could say this, most people take breathers. I take breathers sometimes, but most of the time it's nose to monitor for the most part.
Yeah, in the very.
I don't suggest that because it's a lot better. Like if you get hit a wall during the competition, the advantage of just taking a breather, going around 15-20 minutes, stand up, stretch out your legs, you can really just get more ideas what to do in the competition. That's helped me a lot throughout last year.
Yeah. Semifinals, no one even got up. Everyone just stayed at their computer, like nose to monitor, just sitting.
The semifinal image for Ubuntu was actually was pretty difficult.
It was I did not like that one. Are you talking about last year's or are you talking about the year before?
Yeah, last year's semifinals.
Yeah, I didn't like that one too much. A lot of people I've heard from didn't like it too much.
For high school? Or...
Yeah, for high school flat. I think somebody said, well, I know for last year for a fact, I'm pretty sure the round 1 to round 2 transition was really bad, if I remember correctly. Or was that, I know CyberPatriot 9 was like that. I don't remember what CyberPatriot 10 issue was. There was a really big issue though, but I don't remember what it was.
But yeah, so what are we allowed to put onto a memory stick?
Any illegal resource?
Yeah, we have mentioned rules on resources several times already.
I'm pretty sure you can put like free software and stuff like that you can put on there.
Anything you can get online, which everybody has access to, that is not paid for.
Yeah, I've also put my CIS benchmarks on my USB flash drive.
Yeah, read the FAQ, read the rule book. That should pretty much tell you everything you need to know.
Most people on my team didn't do this, but I went through and read the entire rule book just to know what we're able to do and not do.
Speaking of rules, I need to get open VPN real quick. I need to get the VPN thing for Hack the Box so I can stream it later. Actually, that's something I would actually want to really look into, actually. If Twitch allows people to run VPNs while they're streaming.
Yeah, here's the thing. When do you guys compete? Because I hear a lot of people competing like in the middle of school on Friday. Some people
That's a
competing
bad
on
idea.
Sunday or
Do not do
That's
that.
a very bad idea. I've
Like,
never
from
heard
what?
that before.
Then
I swear I heard it. Like some people like they skip school or something. Like not like they skip school, but they do it during school.
That's what I did.
I usually do mine on a Saturday.
Yeah, my school competed on Saturday as well. I
My
think
school competes
9.
on Fridays after school.
Yeah, my school competes like right after school on Friday.
Yeah, but then you
start usually at like 4 o'clock and we stay until 10.
But then you're in school for like 14 hours straight. That's really not good. So that's not a great idea.
Yeah, that's why our team does it on Saturday so we can get some sleep and then the day after.
Yeah. Our school just goes to 9 to 4. That's about when we do it.
Let me run open VPN quick. Make sure this is all working. No readable connection profiles. I know. No, I did not work that. Is there anything else? Any other questions that came up? Or anything?
What are you guys gonna eat for dinner?
I'm about to order me some pizza.
Yeah,
I'm gonna eat some ramen.
I'm going to eat me some fresh server components.
I don't know what I'm eating.
Yeah.
If anyone needs to have their hardware disposed of, donate to me. I can gladly dispose of it for you in a natural way.
I have some crispy ECC RAM for you if you want.
I can actually use that in my server.
I actually want some ECC RAM.
I actually have a use for ECC RAM.
Yeah. So
I need some more in my server. I only have 32 gigs right now.
So if there's no any like serious questions,
I bricked. Okay, this one guy, Danny. I bricked an Ubuntu VM with apt-get dist upgrade somehow.
Oof. Oh, well, that's your first issue. You dist upgrade.
Yeah,
want to do that.
Don't do dist upgrade.
Well, dist upgrade isn't actually upgrading Ubuntu version. That's just upgrading all the components, but not upgrading Ubuntu version.
Yeah.
It actually upgrades you to a point release of the Ubuntu version.
It's actually better.
So you're not actually upgrading your Ubuntu version, you're just upgrading to a more recent point release, which is important because that's how you still keep getting security updates.
Alright.
Crap. School starts in 2 days for me. I'm so nervous.
Yeah, me too.
This is gonna be my second full week.
Oh.
This is about to be my 4th full week. Wow.
I have a week until I start.
Yeah, yeah. Alright, I feel like we're...
How long of summer do you guys have?
So mine is small. I get out at the very end of May, and I get back roughly
May's
The
early.
third Thursday of August.
May is early. We get out
Yeah.
middle of
Actually,
June.
second Thursday, first, third
We-
Thursday is actually.
We
get out middle of June,
My
but
old
get back
school
middle of
was
August.
my old school was the 25th of May, and then gets back in on the second week, or at least I'm pretty sure this year was the second week of August. It was like the 11th.
All right.
Yeah.
So
that was, or no, it was the 10th. My bad.
yeah. So are we
Right?
close? Are we close to wrapping up now? If
Probably.
yeah.
Probably.
All right. Anybody else watching have anything you want to ask we haven't covered yet? Any last questions?
Cricket.
Well, the stream's at a delay, so I just have to wait a little bit.
Yeah. It's like 10 seconds ish. So
Someone play
I have
elevator
a
waiting.
1.31 millisecond response time, or the server does.
YouTube is fairly. It has fairly long delay. I don't know why it just does.
Let's see. What can we do? Lab server status. Let's find
Because
something.
it's harvesting your data.
Yeah, like Twitch
Ah.
is significantly faster.
But you have Amazon and mandatory ads that you get no profit.
AWS.
Well, if you're a partner, you can turn those off. But I'm not a partner, obviously.
You used to be able to disable them. After I streamed again once, like 2 years after I last streamed. I was testing to see if my stream was running. Before I even got to see that my stream was running or not, I got presented with an ad. And I'm using an ad blocker, by the way.
Oh,
I'm
that's
like,
nice.
I'm like,
Then you
what?
ad blocker can do that.
I'm have to suffer ads in my own stream that I'm logged in as?
Yep, you have to.
Bull. Why are they profiting off of my content?
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Yesterday, I was kicked out of. Well, I wasn't kicked out. I wasn't allowed to go into my own school's football game. Kind of dumb. Yeah. That was,
Well, I wouldn't want to go into any of those anyways.
I only like one.
So I don't see any questions for anyone. So we just done.
I have a question that will last the rest of the time. What is the problem with Cali Patriot?
Okay, let's not. This is kind of.
That's a great question. I would love to answer that question.
I would love to as well.
I
Cali
will
Patriot.
participate in that.
It's not really a good question to discuss because some people have really strong opinions on California.
Well, yeah, a lot of people have really strong opinions against.
Not to mention that one team is actually funded by Northrop Grumman and gets support from them.
Three.
that-
That's literally Cyber Aegis.
Yes.
What? I
That
heard
is
my name.
literally BS.
Wait, what do we
It says
get?
it on their website, so I mean, you know.
What do we get?
And they have their own website and everything. Like, who does that? And they're counting down.
Yeah,
You can't
this
just
game
have
is
to-
till we win nationals. That's like they're really confident.
Hey, all right, Danny.
It's not that they're confident; it's that they are going to nationals.
No.
No, it says to win nationals. The countdown starts now.
That's why me and Lighthouse actually unironically considered like naming our teams Virginia Patriot and then just going to nationals just to compete with Cali Patriot.
Yeah,
just by naming ourselves Virginia Patriot.
Oh yeah, I'll go.
Danny asks, is it a good idea to flush the ARP and DNS cache?
Oh, I've had conflicted results with doing stuff with ARP. However, I would do it anyways.
Yeah.
Just
yeah.
don't fuck up the rest of your the rest of the network if you are doing it on a network level.
Just like shield.
Yeah.
Because you can. It is technically possible for you to accidentally poison your ARP table.
I've done that plenty.
I did a competition at one of my local universities. It was capture the flag. Oh boy, they poisoned the ARP table for everyone but themselves, even white team. And they tried to pawn off us an accident.
That sounds like a lot of BS.
I had to explain to my coach that you cannot just simply poison the ARP table and and the only one that's fine is yourself. I had to explain to my coach that does not work. work. That's not how it works. That doesn't just happen. Don't worry. After most of the teams got back up and running, I did it myself to everyone else once I realized what they did. Then I also started DOSing people as they kept going back online with a script that kept sending a malformed RDP packet to the Windows machines.
That's very nice.
Therefore, it would just blue screen to death upon them initializing networking, because I would send it so fast that as soon as they initialized networking in the RDP protocol, their system would blue screen.
Yeah, that's what I did with a couple of Egypt servers.
All right. Other than controversial California discussion, are there any other things? I don't see anything
Controversial?
Metasploit? Why don't we use it against others in competition? That's how you truly win.
Yeah, don't do that. That's against the rules.
Don't do that, kids. That's a good way to get banned.
Untitled. I like that one.
Well, I mean,
we don't talk about that.
let them do it. It's gonna be pretty funny.
Like I swear, if I get to choose my team's name, I'm gonna make it the memeiest thing as possible.
Yeah.
Do Untitled.
Untitled.
No, not Cali Patriots. Better.
What is the user? What?
Cali Patriot, but better should be your
Pseudo,
team name.
ooh, enable.
Alright.
Retard.
Yeah. All right. So we.
Owo, uwu, owo, or uwu, owo, uwu. Whichever
that's a
one
pro
means
term.
human
Do not
trafficking.
talk about these furries in this chat room. I do not support furries. Get out of here.
All right. So are we done?
No, this is an actual language, and one of the things I just said means human trafficking.
Notice his bone. Ooh, what's this?
Honestly, I'd love to have that announced at Nats by the people. That'd be so cool.
Implying I would win nationals.
And-
I'm sorry, boys. It's not gonna happen.
And in third place, notice this. Alright, so we done?
Yeah.
Yeah, alright.
Yeah.
Are we turning off stream so we can discuss more?
No. Yeah, I think we're gonna just wrap up here.
Goodbye, kids. Have fun. Learn how to hack stuff. Don't hack during competition, and don't poison ARP table. Also, don't let your teammate look on Pinterest.
Also, make sure you script every single part of the competition. Nothing bad will happen, I swear.
Already. Yeah. Alright. Everyone good with stopping?
Yeah.
Alright.
Alright, good night, guys.
Delete system 32.
Delete system 33.
Delete system 72. Hey,
Invite the Scuba Clan to CyberPatriot Discord. It works every time.
We need to make a CyberPatriot clan to compete with Cyber Aegis.
I can make one. I mean, I have a web server to host it on. So I mean,
I do too.
And a domain.
No, it's all good. You can use Wix.
Oof, Wix. Wix.
You can.
No, not Wix.
You can use.
Guys, we're not gonna use Wix. We're gonna use what's it called?
GitHub Pages.
GitHub Pages is actually not that bad.
What about some Google sites?
GitHub Pages is what I use for ManPageBot website, so it's not bad.
How about you hand make it?
Yeah. Well, thanks to everyone.
And make sure you also use the material design.
Thanks to everyone who answered. Thanks to everyone who.
Alright.
Have fun. Enjoy competition. Don't be scared off.
Yep.
Oh, we got a weeaboo in here trying to eat ramen.
Yeah.
Oof,
I'm
ramen.
actually half Asian, okay, so it's not cultural appropriation.
It's good stuff, alright.
I'm at least 1/1,000,000th of a percent Asian. Okay. 1/1,000,000th of a percent.
I have a question. Is